Hey everyone, welcome to Writing Visual Studio Extensions with me, James Montemac. Wait a second. I'm not Mads. Where did Mads go? Nobody knows where. Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Hey, Mads.
How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I was about to write some sweet Visual Studio extensions over here, but now
Oh,
you're here, so I don't have to do anything.
so that's the first time that ever happened. I'll tell you what happened.
What happened?
I was taking a sip of my coffee while the countdown was happening, and I realized that it wasn't as hot as I needed it to be. And so I'm like, oh, I got 43 seconds. I'm just going to go to the microwave and heat it up. And I gave it 20 seconds. Excuse me.
There you
No,
go.
I thought I could make it. I couldn't. Sorry. Sorry,
So
everybody.
close. So close. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're back because I was not prepared.
Sorry, James. Well, everybody, that was an awkward start, but that's okay because today we have a great show. We're gonna look at some developments that have happened in sort of the both the templates and the toolkits that we use to build extensions. And I have been extremely excited by this development this week. It's like I don't know how to describe it really. It has now progressed to a place where it feels like there's a bunch of like fresh air like being added to extension development. It's like there's a fresh car smell all of a sudden again to writing extensions, and I'm super excited. It feels right. It feels good. It feels like a future that I want to see expanded a lot, and I want to go down that path. I want to stick to this. It has me really excited. And before I show you all what exactly what it is, hey James, let's take a look at my screen here. Hey, I've done something today. I've increased the font of the environment there.
You know what?
No.
I was using your extension to do that, Mads.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have a keyboard that has the up and down buttons. Like I don't have the
Uh-huh.
full. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, I don't know how to reprogram that.
Yeah, because you have to. If you don't have a numpad, then
Don't
you
have
can't
it.
do it with a keyboard shortcut. Yeah, unless
Yeah.
you change the keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I don't know how to use Visual Studio. Except
Yeah.
for I use it every single day for the last 15 years, 20 years of my life. How 20 years of my life? Yeah. So it's VS6. That was my first.
Oh wow. Yes. Okay. That was mine. Mine was the Visual Basic 5 or 6. Yeah, which I think is the same product, ish. Whatever was just before Visual Studio 2002, I think, or Visual Studio.net or whatever the first version was called. Okay. Anywho, I want to start with one thing. There's 3 things we want to talk about. So let's start with the first. Here I have an extension. I'm going to open its VSCT file. Now, we all know that it's very hard to figure out when you write a menu or a button or something like that specifically a button, I guess, like to place it in the right location. Like, how do you actually place a button on, let's say, up here on the view menu under other windows in this group that's right here, right? Or inside this here, it could be anywhere. What about this one right here? Can you add stuff into those, right? That's been like one of the hardest things to do, like since forever. And so it seemed like something that would be worthwhile looking to see if we could make easier. Like I'm not saying that we can solve the problem and anything like that, but can we make that somehow a better experience than it is today? So check out what we have in this VSCT file. So here, let's just show what we got. This is kind of interesting. I'll just zoom in here a little bit. So check this out. So this is the package. This is the main menu. We use this. This is the built into Visual Studio kind of main menu thing, right? That we've known before, that gives us that sort of uppercase list of IDs that are hard to figure out what mean. But look at this down here. We have VS Editor, VS Feedback, main menu, NuGet, terminal. What's that about? Well, main menu is actually kind of similar to that one. But let's grab that one. So now when we have main menu, I can do stuff like, oh, let me zoom out again. So what can I do now? Let me delete all this. I can start typing. Let's say, oh, I want my, this is a button. Do I want that up in, other windows? Let's say I want it up here. View other windows. I want it here somewhere. Well, let's just find out how to do that. I'm just going to type other windows and boom. I get to see all of them, but I also get to see the group names on the view menu here. So I can see here, this says view.devWindows group.other windows.group1. So this is dev windows right here. It says view dev windows. So now I know, oh, this is it. And then other windows, that's in here. So a couple things here, a couple things to notice. So one is it's a natural language, right? Other windows. Like the original name for this was not, it didn't have the word other in it or windows in it. It was something like, you know what I mean? IDG underscore VS underscore menu underscore. And then it was like OTR something like this. This makes no sense unless you know what it means, right? So, but now we can actually use this using natural language and just search for it. And even if I hover, it'll show me on hover that so I can see these things. Isn't that cool? And so what else can we do here? We can say, edit. Even edit has it. They all have it. They all have it. Debug, code window. So they're not all filled in. This one is filled in. Edit, I have filled in. File, I've filled in. And then view, but help doesn't have. This one doesn't actually have the names of the groups on here. Like I need that on the picture. Most of them don't have that. But I created the pictures so that we can start filling in those names to make it super easy to understand where our button will show up. Does this make sense to people? Let me know in the comments. Because this to me is like extremely exciting. I no longer have to kind of guess and trial and error to figure out where my buttons go in the UI. All right. What do you think, James? I'm not getting anything in the comments here.
I like it. I'm into it. Anything more visual, I like it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. So this is an extension. The way it works is we include a file up here called vsglobals.vsct. And that's actually nested right here under. So here's what it looks like. It has some documentation. And then it just has like all these aliases. Right? Here we go. It's a long list. And it has taken me a long time to come up with this list. I have to basically go in the idle files and the H header files in native code. And I have a lot more to do to figure this out. Because the problem is that they're all flat. There's no hierarchy. So I have to figure out what the right hierarchy is. Because notice how I write it out. It's menu, right? Menu.group.menu.group. That's how Visual Studio works. A menu can only be inside a group. And a group can only be inside a menu, okay? You can't have a group inside another group or a menu inside another menu. And a button can only be inside a group. So you know that a button you can't like put up to a menu. So if you look at what this IntelliSense thing here does, it actually shows you, if I zoom in here, it actually shows you here on the right-hand side of the completion list, it actually tells you if it's a menu or a group, but also just the word group shows up in the item itself here. So it's easy to see what's actually a group. So if you need to put a button somewhere, you can only put it under, into a group. So the problem was that that the list of IDs are, it's just a flat list without hierarchy information. And so going through and trying each of them out to see where do my button does my buttons and my custom groups end up in the UI, and then start building the hierarchy like just takes forever, right? And so this is a big task. So anyway, so this was actually something that was suggested by Jan Duran, and I think it was absolutely brilliant. So all it requires is that we have this vsglobals.vsct file right here, and then we include it by that line up top here, and that's it. So the IntelliSense part of it, and that it shows this picture and all, is coming from a different place. So that's coming from an extension here called here the VSCT and VSCT IntelliSense, I think it's called, or VSCT completion. It's the name of the extension. And if we look at menus here, you can see I have all these menus are all here included, and so those are the ones that show up. And there's just a lot of work. If any of you want to go ahead and figure out how, no, that's too early for that. Never mind. We'll get back to that. But anyway, that's taken care of by the VSCT IntelliSense extension, which is part of the Extensibility Essentials extension pack. So that's kind of cool. And if we go to here, the Extensibility template pack.
I like this from MZG. It's really awesome. Really visual studio ought to be visual. So I like to put in the visual in Visual Studio.
That's a good point. I never even thought of that. Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what this is. This is more visual. I think in order to make this like super awesome, we would want a like a designer for VSCT files. That's how you can do it completely accurately. I can maybe show you like one of the issues there are. So let's say you want to go into the tools NuGet pack. You want a button in here, in with the NuGet package stuff, right? Okay. So that's under tools NuGet package. So now you go here, you go, okay. So that's tools dot, and then you look and you're like, oh, there's no NuGet here. That's weird. Okay. That's annoying. And that's because the way it works is like, because the NuGet is defined in its own package, which means it has its own GUID. So I have to shift to VS NuGet. And when I do that, now you can see I get the NuGet groups here, right? So it keeps the same, naming convention, that the hierarchy, like it's under tools, other groups, NuGet, and tools group, right? So this thing in here is called, anyway, other two group. So I think that thing can only be solved if we have a designer where we don't show the GUID and the ID necessarily. We just have like, okay, what's the path? You say tools.nuget. Or whatever, if that makes sense. So I think that's the big solution that we might look into going forward. I think that would be the best thing, but it might also make other things harder. Like sometimes it's just easier to edit text, right, and XML and stuff. So I don't know. Is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. So then we have our template pack. Okay, so we have our Visual Studio, our VSCT IntelliSense extension, which is already updated. And by the way, you can find that if you go to the v6gallery.com. Here it is, VSCT IntelliSense. You can just grab it from there, and you'll see it works right away. So grab it from there. It's not on the marketplace yet, but I will put it up there very soon. We just need to make some modifications. The reason I don't have it up there yet is because no one can actually use it, because no one has that nested VSCT file with all those GUIDs and IDs, right? And so before people have that, there's no reason for the update. So let's give people a reason to have that. So Ismail is saying, so we can create our custom menu group extension, question mark. So we can create our custom menu group extension. Yes, I don't, yeah, you've always been able to create your own custom menus and groups and all this sort of stuff. What's interesting is that you can, this is just, this thing just alias existing things. So the VS Global is this thing. I just make up these names. The name here is just made up, but the GUID up here is not. And the IDs, the values here are not either. They map to existing GUIDs and IDs. So I just alias them, I just give them new names. But when this all compiles into the menu command table, it uses the same IDs like GUIDs and integer values that Visual Studio already knows and understands. Okay. So yeah, you can alias any other GUID and ID because the name is not used for anything. The name is just used as something that makes it easier to keep track of, I guess. But there's no there's no importance to what you name a group or a menu, if that makes sense. Okay. So I think what we should do is that we should look at the V6 project template with a command. So let me show you here. So if I say file new project, V6 project, where are we? Here, V6 project with command / community. These are the community templates, right? So they have the word community in them. And that's basically that template we have here. So in that template, we now want to include that VS Global's VSCT file. So I should go get that. So let me just do that. Can I just say open containing folder VS Globals? Yes, sir. And let's throw it in there. And we don't want that. So I need to make sure this is my template. So no, we don't want you to generate anything here, including V6 false. And build action content, there's no build action here. This is a template, so we don't actually run this code, right? Okay, so we want the VSCT global, and then we want that to be included here. VS globals, there we go. Then we need to make sure that it's nested under the right. Oh, that's not what I want. So we need to go into the project file and make it dependent upon the right thing. So let's go down here. Let's see if we can find our VSCT file. Here we go. VSCT file. Actually, let's put it down here where we have none. No, let's just put it up here. So we want to include VS. Where is my command table VS or VSCT? There it is. VSCT compile. We don't want that. We want none. We're not gonna, this is just gonna be in the project, the finished project when you create a new V6 project. And we don't want it to generate anything. So let's get rid of these things. And this one we want to say dependent upon, did I spell that right? And maybe it's not an A in, oh, here we go. Dependent, no, there's no A in dependent. Okay. I thought so. Okay, and so we're going to take a dependency on this thing. So dependent upon basically means nest under this other item. Oh. Okay, so that should be enough just to include it like that. And then we have to include it in our template definition here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say VS command table, it's now VS globals.vsct. include that in our template and just dump it there. And this one, we're actually not going to replace parameters. So we're just going to do that. Okay. Is that really it? Let's run this. Control F5. Okay, here's a good question. Why this name table cannot be internally in source of Visual Studio? A lot of work, or is it for backwards compatibility? Let's think this through. So, yes, it can be in Visual Studio. That's the short answer. Yes, it can be in Visual Studio. Does it make sense to be in Visual Studio? Yes, it does, to an extent. But I don't think it's practical necessarily the way it works. So, for a few reasons, there technically is no hierarchy in how our menus and groups are defined in Visual Studio. So technically, the fact that I make them into a hierarchy is not like 100% accurate depiction of how the command table in Visual Studio. No, that's wrong. Command table in Visual Studio is hierarchical, but it's not a representation of how groups work, let's say. So you have the NuGet team, you have the editor team, you have the core Visual Studio IDE shell team, you have the extensibility team, you have the .NET team, you have Visual C++ team, you have the debugger team, and they all have, for their source code repos and so on, they all have their own VSCT files that registers their menus and stuff into Visual Studio, into the main menu system. And so if we were to have there's not a single team that is responsible for the entirety of the menu definitions, if that makes sense. And if we were to have this aliased table in Visual Studio, then there would be no one to own it, and it would be kind of weird because there's some duplication going on, right? And so some sort of restructuring would have to happen. You don't want to repeat yourself. You only want to have your single source of truth. So I think then the VSCT file format, either we need to come up with some process that combines it all sort of at build time or something, so that there is only one artifact, there is only one master VSCT file, let's say, that ends up in the product. But that's just not reality. So I think it's something that we do. Also, because what is technically accurate is not always what's the simplest and best solution for extenders. And so I think it makes more sense to be able to say, I want to put something under file, or view other windows. And that's how you think about it. You think about the hierarchy of it. You think about the location. Whereas VSCT is like a little bit different in that, first of all, you have multiple. You can have groups and menus that appear in multiple locations. And so now we duplicate things, because I want it such that if you can go to the top level menu project, like up here, you can say, so project, and you can say add class or add new item here. Well, these are the exact same commands. These are the exact same groups as you will find here. Add in here. Okay. So there's some duplication here. So I want to have the duplication. I want it so that you can go in and say project node, add item, and then it's in here. Even though it's the same as up here, where it's under the project and then somewhere an add item. But that's not necessarily how other, the teams in Microsoft think about these things. And so anyway, so I think if we keep this in the community and we maintain it together, we're going to end up with something that's super tailored to how we as extenders want it, if that makes sense. Oh, what did I click? Oh, here we go. All right, so let's check out our project template. That was a very long answer, and I'm not even sure about the answer. I was kind of making up as I kind of was thinking about it as we went along. Okay, so let's just create this new project template, or project from project template. Okay, so we have our VSCT file right here. Wonderful, wonderful. And we have our include up here. Okay, so now this group should be in tools. So I should be able to go in here and say VS global, no, VS main menu. And tools just mean the main tools window up here. So what is the logical name of that? I would say it's just tools. Wouldn't you agree? So right there. So I should be able to build this. If I can't build this, something is wrong. You know how at compile time, it actually checks whether or not it referenced the right IDs and whatnot. So for instance, if I'd made a mistake here and I called it tools 1, 2, 3, and I try to build again, it should give me an error. Yeah, and it did. Undefined parent and ID attribute. Okay. That was a lot quicker than I thought. And we should do the same with our project template. Oh, actually, yeah, project template. So that means we copy our VSCT. We have a project template here for tool window. That's kind of the same story. We put that in here. And our project template, we have that, or project file. And our CS project file. We're going to do this one. So we're just going to find the VSCT file. There it is. And then we're just going to add it to our template file. Not open a template file? Oh, I did. There it is. Okay, so that's 1 and 2. Those are the only two we have VSCT files. Okay, let me ask you a question, everyone out there. There is another. So this project has 3 VSCT file, 3 V6 project templates. It has an empty one. It has one with a tool window. It has one with a command. And then it has one that's just has like a package. But I'm wondering if a package class should also have a VSCT file, even if you don't have any commands. I'm not sure, but I think it might be a good idea. And the reason I think it's a good idea is that an extension that has a VSCT file does not have to have hard-coded strings in its package class. So if we open this one, it actually has a GUID as a string, whereas the other project templates, oh, that's wrong. This should be updated because we now run we took a dependency now on, so this should be, oh, this is a nice catch. This should be GUID package. So this means package GUID, and then this.
See what I put on the screen there?
No. I'm not looking at the screen.
I know.
Nice
catch. Nice catch.
Excellent.
I'm going to put that every time now.
Good. Anyway, so because then we have just one source of truth, which is going to be the VSCT file where you define that GUID for the package. I don't know if it's a kind of weird, because otherwise you're not using the VSCT file for anything else than just holding that GUID. So anyway, let me know what you think. I think I could go either way on this. I feel like if you don't want anything, well, there is the empty project template. So, okay, so let's just check this out here again. And then I'm going to show you something cool, which is always good. Because now we've been talking about two things. But there's a third thing I want to talk about. Okay, so let's create the tool window one this time. There we go. Okay, we got our command table, we got our globals in here. Yep. It's all good. And our package now has, and it resolves. Good package. I can build. No. Yes. Cannot convert from system good. Oh, because this has to be good package string. Oh dear. Good package string. There we go. All right. So that was great. So now those are working. Now let's do, there's one more thing here, and that is we need to update the references to the toolkit. Instead of version 41, we're now version 68. 68, everybody. And there's been several people from the community that's been helping out here, which has been fantastic. Sending pull requests. And that's just absolutely fantastic. So here's the community toolkit. You see here, 68. I just released it like 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago. That version. So let's actually see what's going on. Oh yeah, so Steven here, he says, you think it makes sense basically to have that VSCT file? Yeah, I think so too. And if you know what you're, because if you kind of know what you're doing and you don't want any of that because you're doing a MEF component or whatever, wouldn't you start with an empty V6 project instead? I think so. Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we got time for that. Then let's add the VSCT file to that template as well. All right, let's do our tool window again. So now we should be at the latest and greatest of the toolkit. And that allows us to do some really cool things. Really cool things. So here it is. This looks right. I'm gonna do this. A couple of things. Tool window GUIDs. I'm gonna change that for just window GUIDs. Is that what it's called? Why is that not in there? So okay. Anyway, let's just look at some of the things we can do. So tool windows. I have my tool window here. I got my SAML control there. I got my command up here. So the command we already changed to a base command that comes from that Visual Studio Community Toolkit, right? Let me zoom in here. Oh, go away. 14,400. That's a little too much. So there's a few things. So whatever this command does is doing one thing. It's just opening the tool window, okay? And it does so asynchronously because it's an async tool window, and this is how you do that. For it to be an async tool window, we have to override 3 methods in our package class. And you can see here, and we have to if we had more than one tool window, we'd have to add logic for all our tool windows. So this tool window in its constructor just takes the DTE, which it grabs from here. And that's it. So let's see if we can do something a little bit different. So instead of our tool window here is implementing or deriving from tool window pane, we're going to do something else. We are gonna say my tool. We're going to derive this from base tool window. Generate. What's going on? Do I not have the latest and greatest? No. Yes. 41. No. 68. Okay. That was weird. Didn't I just do that? Didn't I just change this to, or had I already run the, maybe I'd already run the control F5. Ah, no. Here we go. Did the wrong ones. Honest mistake, and I forgot this one. Okay. Well, that explains it. We can get rid of that. We can say base tool window. Now we can go in here and see base tool window, my tool window. Here we go. And then we can do something else. We can say, I'm basically going to delete everything in here. And then, because the only thing it did, right, was that it basically just passed along it basically newed up my new tool window SAML control, which is right here. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to look at the base class for this. Can I actually go F12 on something like this? Here. I was hoping that it would give me the example. Well, that's too bad. That's too bad. We can open it. Just open the example from here. This is the simple one. Okay. So get title. That's the one we want. Get title. And this one we call my tool window. Here we go. So get title can now go away. And then we need to, here, a task to create something async. So we're going to return vs.get DTE. There we go. Oh no, it needs a framework element. So we need to say what DTE equals await. We need to grab. There we go. And then we need to new up. We need a new my tool window control. Pass it to DTE. Here we go. Okay. So far, so good. And then we need a class. So now we need a, let's see here. So now we need a public class that inherits from tool window pane. Just the regular tool window pane that you know from the, there we go. Tool window pane that you know from other, let's just call it something like this. And it just needs the constructor. And then in here, we can, you know, it doesn't actually need a constructor. What it do need is a GUID. But in this case, I want to set my icon. I want my image moniker. And in this case, we're just going to use a known monikers. See here, known monikers. And what should we do this we're going to do save, the save icon. There we go. Okay. So this is cool, right? This is now my entire tool window. That's it. If we go to our base class, or sorry, package class, I'm gonna, instead of using async package, I'm gonna use toolkit package. Everything is the same as normal, but I'm going to delete this. Boom. I simply just deleted all those things I had to do because that's now built in. And it's not the type of tool window, it's the type of tool window.pane that we want to open. So notice here how cool this is. We now have a base tool window that encapsulates sort of all that cruft and boilerplate that has to happen for async tool windows to hydrate asynchronously in the background all the services and all the long running tasks that it needs to run before it is able to do before it's able to initiate the tool window. And the tool window is still just a tool window. So whatever you're doing in here, you can continue to do. Right? This is the tool window you know and love or hate or whatever, but it's the same thing. But we've removed all the cruft. And so here, the type here should be type of pane. There we go. There we go. So that's kind of neat. So now we have a much smoother sense. And I wanted to say tool window GUID. I want to say window GUIDs like this. Now, what is window GUIDs? It's the exact same thing as tool window GUIDs, but this one has additional things that the other one doesn't. So document well, for instance. It's completely undocumented, but this is how you have a tool window fill up the entire screen. That's how when you register that, provide tool window right here, you can set that to be document, right there, document well, and then it opens up like any file you have opened, right? And for some reason, that isn't in the official list of GUIDs here or names or whatever. So we created our own. And the thing about this is that there are a bunch of other ones that are not in here. So for instance, for the new Git windows, Git changes, like, Git changes this one, and so on. So we can start getting all those in there. So a really cool thing about this is that you, for free, also will get async tool windows in versions before they were supported by Visual Studio. So in this case, we're kind of backporting a feature that was added in Visual Studio 15.6. And we're backporting it all the way down to Visual Studio 14, like 2015. We now have async tool windows all the way back. Now, it's not exactly the same. Like in 15.6 or newer, you have an icon that, or you have a loader. So if your background task takes a little while, then you get a loader. Like a little spinner, or it says working on it, basically. We don't have that in previous versions of Visual Studio, but we still have the exact same API. It's all async, it's all modern, it's all kind of simple to do. Okay, so we do the same thing here that we do with commands. We're going to take our my tool window and we're going to initialize it, just like that. So instead of overriding those three methods in our package class, we're just going to initialize our tool window like this. Done. Boom. That's it. And from our command, when we click here, this is how we pop a tool window, right? What if I could just say my tool window dot show async? Boom. That's it. That is it. I'm super happy. This is actually so good that we could, James, I don't know, you tell me if this is like, is this okay?
Yeah, lambdas are always okay.
Okay.
And so there's a few ways of doing it. Everyone has a different opinion. This would be good conversation for the chat. James Montemagno, I'm a big fan of putting the lambda arrow on the same line after the execute async and then putting stuff afterwards. And I like that. That's me, because to me, it's like the arrow shows me like stuff after this. That's what I like. However, I'm not positive, right? Because like, yeah, I'd put those braces on the same line. I'd put it all on one line. Probably doesn't even matter. But some people like that method, put it all in one line. I don't like it because I don't like natural word wrap and like I don't like to word wrap my VS, right? So I try to keep it in this. Now, some people will say, well, James, not everyone codes at 280%, text editor. And I would say, well, I do. It's my code. But this is my preferred setup here. I like this.
Okay.
Ooh, and I'm also not sure if I would put the 2 dots before the base on the same line or not either. Again, it's all up to.
Well, I was just trying that before, but the problem with this is if I now format document Control KD, if the colon is up there, it forces the parenthesis down there, which I'm not a fan of. But if the colon was down here, and now I do Control KD,
boop.
It doesn't move it keeps the braces there.
Then there you go. Keep it there. Whatever that says. I like that.
And see, now we can even get rid of some of these. Here we go. Using statements. And in here we can get rid of using statement. Isn't that just fantastic? So now a tool window and a command is kind of similar. You register them in your, and actually tool windows you can register here. You don't have to wait till you get to the switch to the main thread. You can just do them out there. So I think this is pretty fantastic / phenomenal. And I don't know if people agree, but I'd like it such that when you create a new, and by the way, I don't know if you've seen this. I did a little poll last time to see if people think that we should integrate with the VSCT, the V6 synchronizers that automatically create our code behind C# version of all these. And people said yes. And so if we look at properties, they already have that v6.name, v6.description. So your assembly info is now completely filled in. There's now one source of truth, which is the XML file here, the v6 manifest. And that now goes through. And we, of course, have to make sure that when we do our, and even the command, let's open the command. Check out the command here. Package GUID.command set. Boom, package ID.mycommand. That's coming from right here. Oh, not that one. This one. Here we go. Isn't that nice? And I also cleaned up here some of the symbols. I called it like command set instead of GUID and then v6 name. So this case, like GUID v6 project 66 command set. I thought that was kind of long, and I think most people most of the time only have a single command set, and then they have like a lot of symbols underneath it. But so why not just call it command set by default? Anyway. So those are some of the updates, like just make it more readable instead of those CMD like short things. So I don't know. I probably can't. Oh yeah, I can set my formatting in editor config. I have thought about this, John. We could use editor, like we could include an editor config in V6 projects. I like to keep my editor config files on the solution level. And that might not always be appropriate because for some extensions, you don't want the same, you want to, in your editor config to disable some analyzer rules, for instance, that, if you have class libraries, don't apply necessarily. For instance, in a V6 project, you don't want to be configuring a weight, configure a weight. But the regular .NET analyzers like ask you to do that and give you like a suggestion or a warning or something like that. But for V6 projects, that is not the case. And so it does make sense that to have them local per project, but I kind of don't want them in my project. I want them on my solution, unfortunately. So I don't know. What do people think? Is editor config a project? Should that be in the V6 project, or should it be on the solution level? Okay. So that's basically the update. So we have 3 major components here in play. We got the community toolkit, the API here that allows us to do these tool windows in a new and really cool way. And we have our VSCT files, right? We have our new shorthand way of doing VSCT file. Where did the thing go? Here, main menu, other windows, right? So this is going to be VS main menu. Oh, hang on. I'm in the wrong place. I should go in here. Here we go. Oh, look, I forgot to include it up here. I did that in the other. Okay, so this is VS globals. And now that that's there, we can go in and say VS main menu. And then we can go in and say other window group 1. There we go. Like that's just a nice feeling, right? Okay, so we have our API, the community.visualstudio.toolkit NuGet package. That's one aspect. The other aspect is we have our templates, which now includes our VSCT files with these alias groups. Now this is a work in progress. But the really, really cool thing about this is it's in the template. So you do whatever works for you, and no update you do to any extension is going to change how your extension works based on new templates. It's just when you have a new extension, there will be some, you want to write a new extension, you want to create a new project based on an updated version of the project templates. It might be even better. It might be more accurate. It might have more things in it, right? That you can choose from. But it doesn't change anything from past. So if you have something that works, it will never break that, right? Because it's in the template. So it's only a new project you get this. But you can always just go to the GitHub repo and just always get the latest. So you can just jump in and grab it from the GitHub repo to VSCT. No, not VSCT Intelligence. The GitHub repo for the template pack. Yeah. Okay, and then finally, so that was template pack, and then finally we have it for the updated extension, right? The VSCT Intelligence. So that's the one that basically comes in here and gives us that hover here, gives us those images. It also is the thing that gives intelligence to this entire file, which otherwise has zero intelligence, other than what the XML schema gives it. That means that it doesn't know anything about IDs and GUIDs anywhere, right? So I also got this working again, but you now get the icon here for known monikers. It was broken, and anyway, I fixed that, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so that was 3 community projects that kept in sync. I think personally, I'm very excited for the experience that they give me as an extension author. I don't know what you think, based on what you've seen here so far. I would love to hear your feedback on this. And if you want to get involved, that would also be fantastic. And so community.visualstudio.toolkit, go to the project site or repository. It's the exact same place right here. Open issues, send pull requests. We've had some great kind of conversations and discussions on both pull requests and issues. And I really feel, and Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have a different experience, I thought it's been such a great experience to talk to other extenders, and we each weigh these arguments and come up with the best solution. And I think that we've landed on the best solution every time. And it hasn't been my idea or my argument that has won every time. It's the best argument that wins. It doesn't matter who makes it, and it's been real fun to be part of. So yeah, and Jan agrees. So yeah, so if you haven't already, join in and open issues with things that you would want to, right? So now we have commands and we have tool windows kind of pretty solidly done, I'd say, like from a conceptual perspective. What else? What else do we need? What are some other pain points that we should tackle? I think we tackled the VSCT, GUID ID thing for location. That we tackled in the template pack and the VSCT Intelligence extension. They kind of together fix that issue. But what else is there? So you can use the Visual Studio Toolkit. If you don't know if something belongs if it should be solved by the template pack or something, or some other extension or the toolkit itself, just open it on the toolkit. Like if that's fine. So either I will move it to the right place, or maybe it might be that it's best solved by the toolkit, right? And so it's at the right place. So please go ahead and do that. This is truly a community effort, and I like to keep it that way for as long as we possibly can, because after having used this, I'm in love with it. It changes everything. So I don't want to overpromise here or make it sound better than it is, but that's my experience. So it's true from my perspective. It's very true. And we actually have to end the show here in a minute. So are there any last words here, James? Any comments, any questions that we need to take? I will say one thing. I'm gonna update all the templates so that they have all the things that we just talked about. But I'll do that after the fact because we have to run. So what do you think, James?
I think it's good. Color or color? U or no U?
Well, if you're in Britain, you have a U in color.
Yeah. I think either. Yeah, I use no U, but also because the color class also doesn't have it. That's the only problem. That's what I do with this, and that's a convention. Although that's a hard one. Color.
There's also neighbor. The word neighbor in American English doesn't have a U, but in British it does.
Neighbor. Shop and shoppy. Like, the shop. I like to call it shoppy. There used to be when I grew up, there's a pinball shop, but it had the, the E, the P's, and the E's at the end, like shoppy. I used to call it shop. Yeah, there's like, it's like shop. Yeah, it's like, because you would say shop, and so SHOP, like you can say shop with like 2 E's at the end.
Yeah, or here, like what Aiden is saying, initialize with or without it, like with an S or with a Z. Yeah, same thing.
Every time with initialize, that one gets me.
I always get it wrong with the word. Is it advertised that even in American is with an S? It's like, God damn it, there's one. It breaks the rule, like in one case that I use quite often, and I always get it wrong.
Advertise.
Is it advertise?
Yeah.
I think it advertises with an S in American English.
Advertise would be the with a Z. Advertise.
I see John Galloway. He fixed it. He made a regex that's so from now on, people, this is how we're gonna write color.
There you go.
And not when we write emails and such. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope that we can keep the momentum going on all this stuff, and that you want to try it out and give us much feedback and participate, and if not, that's fine too. And then we'll just see you again next Friday. Thank you. Have a good weekend.